What's happening, everybody? Well, I want to chat with you guys about some of the electrical problems that I've had with my 2015 Challenger Hellcat. Now, at the time of this video, the car is about 7.5 years old, considering it's about the middle of 2022 and the car's birthday was in November of 2014. Powertrain-wise, the car has been extremely reliable, knock on wood, but the electrical gremlins, well, they continue. So I made myself a bit of a spreadsheet. You may have to hit pause on your end, but I've included part numbers, part costing, some simulated labor hours, which will give you an idea for labor costing, grand totals, and the like. You guys can figure it out. So that's what I'm going to be taking a look at while I'm chatting about this. So let's get started. I want to talk about the part, but also want to give you guys the symptom that led me to know that something wasn't going exactly as planned, and walk you guys through the part costing and the rest of the costing in terms of labor as well. So when I'm talking about the part itself, these are the individual parts that I personally had to buy. When I'm talking about the price is basically what you would find the cost to be roughly at your local Dodge dealership, Mopar distributor, if you will. Now, you may be able to find cheaper prices online, but you're still going to have to pay, in some cases, tax, shipping. You get the idea. So these prices are going to be close, but not exact to your particular market, as goes the labor and the labor hours. Keep in mind, I do my own work, and I can tell you about what the labor costing would be at a shop because I used to work at a shop. Labor cost is going to include incidentals, shop fees, shop supplies, things like that. At $155 an hour simulated labor hours, your area may differ. So with all that out of the way, let's get going. First thing that absolutely went crazy and drove me nuts was a fuel pressure sensor going bad. But the problem is when a fuel pressure sensor goes bad, you can't just buy the sensor, which is about as big as your thumb, because it's non-serviceable from the fuel rails themselves. So you got to buy the entire assembly. Now, when this took place, the symptom was that under high load, the car would buck, and it was because the computer had no idea what kind of fuel pressure the car had, so it was basically freaking out and going into kind of a limp mode. The total price for the parts on this thing was about $508, so just the other side of $500, and labor hours to install would be about 4 hours, which brings you to about $1,128 to replace a part that should have been covered under the powertrain warranty. At least that was my opinion of the situation, considering that it's attached to the engine, but my bumper-to-bumper warranty would have been the one to actually cover it if it were still in play. So I got to not only pay for the privilege of installing it, but deal with the fact that my warranty didn't cover it, even though my car was under warranty. So word to the wise there, just because you think it might be covered by your powertrain warranty, don't mean that it is. Lesson learned. Next, and this is now out of warranty completely, were the speed sensors, in particular the front wheel speed sensors, both left and right. Those came in at about $80 a piece, and you figure that it's going to take about 2 to 3 hours to replace them, and that's really for both, honestly. Shops are probably going to hit you with an hour and a half bare minimum. And so you're looking at total parts on that being about $160, and if you had to replace both of them, grand total, with that roughly 2 hours that I threw in there for labor, you're looking at about just shy of $500. Now, the issue there was I got a code that said wheel speed sensor not working, and so it would actually tell you in this case which side was or wasn't working, which is fine, except the second time that this happened, keep in mind, I did front left and front right, the front hub, the exciter ring actually flaked out. Now again, this is not covered under warranty because the car is now at this point out of warranty, and that hub that includes the exciter ring, about $400, with about 3 hours labor if you're to take the car to a shop, and that's being actually pretty shy with labor costing, bringing that to a grand total of about $870. That was a real treat because not only did I get the speed sensors, but when I went to data log the car with an aftermarket speed sensor, it still didn't work on my car. After buying a Mopar part, the part itself I found worked because I swapped sides with the sensors, which you can do, and that's how I found out that the hub itself had, I guess the exciter ring lost its excitement to be a wheel speed sensor. When it checked out, the problem still persisted, obviously, until I put the new hub on and everything was great after that. But again, you're still looking at about close to $900 to repair or replace that particular part. Next on the list, the fuel pump. Now, the funny thing about the fuel pump on this car is the car was still running just fine, but in data logging, I noticed that the car was losing a significant amount of fuel pressure under high load for long periods of time. Guys, you gotta data log your car if you're running them hard. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are gonna find that your fuel pumps are waning. Now, that being said, I swapped it out myself, and that fuel pump was about $1,100. In this case, about $1,050. List price is significantly more, but I understand you can find them cheaper online. Again, keep in mind that if you buy it from your local Dodge dealership, though, you've got a 2-year parts warranty, where if you buy them online, you may not. And when a part costs the other side of $1,000, you kind of want to make sure that not only you're getting a halfway decent deal, but you got somebody that's going to stand behind you at least a little bit. Now, the good thing is it didn't take me too long to swap out that part. It takes about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Shop may charge you a little bit more, but grand total is going to get you about $1,400 plus to get that swapped out. We're not done yet. Next comes the fuel pressure control module. Now, the symptom of a fuel pressure control module going out is basically you're driving down the road and the car just quits running. Like it literally runs out of fuel is what it feels like. So in this case, my car did it not once, not twice, but 3 times, and the 2 times that it did leading up to the third, it threw no code. I initially thought it might have been a bad sending unit, thought that the car might have been lower on fuel than it really was. The reality is that that was not the case. It was the fact that the pump just quit running. With the 3rd time, I actually had to pull the car over to the side of the road, cycle the start-stop switch several times. The car fired back up as though nothing was wrong with it. And then along the way I went. I was on the way to the drag strip when that happened. So there's that to consider. Again, that part is going to check in at about $132, give or take. And it's going to take you about an hour and a half to replace that thing. It's pretty easy. It's in the trunk. You just have to basically fillet everything out of the way in the trunk. On the passenger side is where you'll find this thing. Oddly enough, it's held on with 1 bolt and 1 push rivet, which was kind of weird. Anyway, grand total on that, about $370. We're not done yet, though. At least so far last, and hopefully least, or whatever you want to call it. Body control module. Body control module, symptoms of it flaking out are getting messages that your blinkers aren't working when your blinker is clearly working. Other things that can happen are your windows don't necessarily operate correctly. Your fuel pump control module flakes out maybe a little bit, because I think the body control module basically controls everything that the ECU doesn't, or that the transmission control module doesn't. Anyway, you get the idea. In this case, the thing that it also controls is the center stack. In my case, the U-connect would simply not come on, or the HVAC control buttons wouldn't work, which also include your SRT buttons. And you can imagine what kind of a mess that causes when you're trying to, well, get the car ready for spring nationals and you lose all functionality of your SRT buttons. That's really neat. So along the way with replacing the fuel pump control module, I will be installing the body control module. $290 worth. I figured it'll take me about 3 hours to knock that out. At a shop, you'd be looking at $755 for a grand total for everything that's included would be in parts $2,543 and change. Total simulated labor cost about $2,480, checking in at a grand total cost of about just the other side of $5,000 and about 16 hours of my life hemmed up fixing this car's electrical problems. So there's this spreadsheet again, guys. Just wanted to bring all of this to you. If you're planning on buying a used Hellcat at some point, keep in mind there could be some things that'll drive you absolutely batty. These things are driving me nuts, but I'm getting them knocked out. Doesn't take anything away from the car. Absolutely love it to death. And if these are the worst problems that I've got, well, I made out like a bandit. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope it helped you out. Post up your comments. Let me know what I can do to help you guys out. And we'll catch you on the next one. That's a wrap. Adios.